All right, welcome back everybody to another Course in Miracles teaching session. We're picking up now the second part of the fifth section, which is the function of the miracle worker. And this second section is the special principles for miracle workers. So we're kind of going back to the beginning a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit of a mishmash of just different principles to keep in mind as a miracle worker, different um, thoughts, corrections to have in our mind as we're resuming this function, which is our inherent nature, right, of being a miracle worker. This is not a role for somebody special, you know what I mean? Somebody who's super holy or whatever, who's gone many lifetimes and all of a sudden you can do miracles. No, this is the truth of what we are. And so it's the mission of all of us to heal the world because the world is a reflection of our mind. So if we're seeing chaos, war, suffering, and death, then our mind is sick. And so we need to heal it. And that includes healing everybody that shows up within our mind. And that means everybody that we see. And so this role of the miracle worker is for all of us. This is not for certain people and not for others, but it always comes back to me, right? Not me like Patrick, but me, meaning you're going to experience it as you, because we are responsible for everything that we see. And the reason for that is because we're all one mind. And so as we awaken, we um, realize more and more deeply that it's only me, but it's a joining, right? So that me is dreaming up Patrick, and is dreaming up John, Jill, Justin Trudeau, and every person in the world. But it's always will come through me. It will be me forgiving. It will be me healing. And that's how the Holy Spirit kind of comes to us too, because at first it can show up, the Holy Spirit will show up through different seemingly external means, like the Course in Miracles or a teacher that you follow on YouTube or whatever. And but it's really not somebody outside of you. And the way you know is if there's a voice that is coming to you that is moving you from fear into love, that's what the Holy Spirit is, right? And so that can show up in many different ways. It can be some man on the street corner, or it can be a book like The Course in Miracles, or it could be any number of things. And the more that you tweak and you, I guess, attune to that shift within you, you start to notice the Holy Spirit more and more. Um, if you've heard of the book like The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard, which is kind of about the Course in Miracles. For him, he had two ascended masters appear to him, right, who were kind of hallucinations or apparitions or whatever to him, and spoke to him, and he wrote a book about it, right? But either way, it was a voice that led him from fear to love. Therefore, it's the Holy Spirit. It doesn't really matter how it shows up. And really, as you grow, as you heal more and more, you'll just realize that it's you, and you'll become less dependent on external teachers and sources, and you'll just recognize whatever brings you from fear to love is the Holy Spirit. And so um, that's how we learn. Okay, so I'll move to the principles here. All right. So these are the special principles of miracle workers. A lot of it's going to be repetition, but it's just an opportunity for us to go a little bit deeper um, as we delve into these principles. Okay, so number one, the miracle abolishes the need for lower order concerns. Since it is an out of pattern time interval, the ordinary considerations of time and space do not apply. When you perform a miracle, I will arrange both time and space to adjust to it. There's a lot of these are going to be very metaphysical, so it can seem a little dry, but it can be helpful when we really look at applying these. Number one is this abolition of lower order concern. So that means any concern within the world. So that's the need for food, the need for shelter, the need for justice, for health. All of these things are what the miracle abolishes, and doesn't abolish them in the sense that they're bad and we shouldn't have those things, and or that we should ignore them. Rather, what we do is we take those concerns, like say we watch the news and we see a war happening in the Middle East. And that brings an upset to you, then that is a lower order concern that is actually calling for a miracle. And so what we do is we bring that to the Holy Spirit and we invite uh, the Holy Spirit to help us see that differently, our inner teacher, right? And as we do that, as we move from fear to love, we then stop seeing ourselves and others as bodies, right? Bodies that are vulnerable, that are vengeful, that are subject to these karmic chaosity, right? That comes with war. And so as we heal, as we forgive, and we see the light, we see the Christ in others, all of a sudden we realize, wait a second. Eventually, you do that enough times, you realize, well, I don't really need to be concerned about war because I'm not a body, right? And we can't do that right away. It takes practice. And so the way to notice it, the way to know if there's a call for a miracle or a call for love is if there's any kind of upset within you. And so you very much need to go to your body in the sense of going to your experience and say, what am I feeling? And if it's anything other than bliss, joy, and love, then it's a call for a miracle, right? So we're not looking for the neutral, empty types of non-duality that you'll sometimes see out there. There is no world, nothing is really real, as like bodies are crashing and burning and dying, the only like it needs to make sense. It's not a denialism. It is rather what happens is through the miracle, you actually see through those images. You see the light. You see your connection and the love between you, the person doing the killing, and the person getting killed. And you can see the light in all of them and realize that all of this is not true, that this is something that I've dreamed up to hide my guilt. And so therefore, when you experience those others as the light, as healed, healthy, and whole, then the miracle has taken place, right? And we've remembered the miracle, because the miracle is actually always there. Okay, so then the second part of this is, since it is an out of pattern time interval, the ordinary considerations of time and space do not apply. So this means that it doesn't need to be something that's happening right in front of you, right? So we're talking, the miracle applies to our childhood, to history, anything that upsets us about history, anything that seems morbid or awful or that we're worried is going to come again. And it applies to the future as well, right? So any kind of karmic relationships where we're tied up with people, any worries we have about the future, about the economy, all of those things, all of those can be healed. And the way we know that it's a call for love is that there's an upset within us. And so when we're, and actually I would say for the most part, because we're within the world of time and space, we're only in one little sliver of it. From what my experience has been, is that often what can happen as you're forgiving, as you're switching from fear to love, your life in the world that you see around you might not shift a hell of a lot. But that doesn't mean that the miracle is not doing its work. Because as we heal, we're healing this lifetime, future lifetimes, all of that. And as you get the hang of this a little bit, what I found is that when you're doing forgiveness or whatever, um, at first, like, okay, I had these kind of forgiveness episodes, right, where I kind of like somebody did something and then I forgave it. What I'm finding more and more in my life is that I'm having these really powerful slow burns, right? Where I'll forgive somebody in the sense that I see the light in them, all of that, and then there's more to burn. It kind of keeps coming back, but you can feel it on a different level that you're progressing, you're healing. There's something that is being lessened because it's becoming progressively lighter. Um, and so the miracle is happening outside of time. And so you won't see the effects of it necessarily right in front of you, but because it's those effects maybe weren't going to show up until another lifetime, or maybe they showed up in the past, right? In some atrocities or whatever grievances that showed up there that were coming back around in your karmic cycle, right? Past and future are all illusions, right? But they're kind of tied together. So as you're forgiving now, it's very important to go into the feeling, right? Feel the the forgiveness and notice the release, because that will tell you much more about whether you're doing it right than looking for the results, which can show up. There can be miracle healings, things like that show up, and I've experienced things like that within my life. But the real miracle is the lightning. And what you'll notice is as you forgive more and more, even if the same forgiveness episodes seem to be coming back, what the way you notice you're progressing is that you're just closer to the light. You feel lighter. You feel more quickly able to move into love, more quickly able to remember that this world is an illusion. And so you're getting closer and closer that way. So don't think that the miracle is not taking place. It is not healing things that show up within the world, but they're not necessarily things that would show up right now. Okay. And once you feel at peace with what you're seeing out there, the miracle has already taken place, right? And then eventually those appearances will fade. Okay. Number two, a clear distinction between what is created and what is made is essential. All forms of healing rest on this fundamental correction in level perception. So again, as the miracle does its work, it seems like it's doing its work in the world, that we're forgiving others, that we're healing, that we're giving, but really it's actually doing its work on our mind. And so every time we heal, every time we forgive, we start to realize more and more that what is real and what is not. And so as we start to we slowly I stop thinking that I'm Patrick, and I'm no longer looking for Patrick to be healed, right? Um, we start to realize our healing more and more, because you can only really realize it when you're spirit, right? You can't be one with God and be a body at the same time. It's not possible. And so um, as we start to recognize where the problem is, what really needs to be healed? Is it this Patrick body and his life full of problems and and disease and whatnot? Um, or is it my mind that is dreaming up Patrick, right? That's the one where the pain is experienced, right? So that's where the healing really needs to take place. And then the world will reflect that as we heal. So starting to realize, because when you're asking for the wrong thing, when you're asking for my broken leg to be healed, rather than the pain and suffering and the powerlessness and misery that might be that might be behind that broken leg, right? Then you're asking for the wrong thing, right? And you always get what you ask for. Um, Especially when you realize what you're really asking for, right? Because what you're asking for there is to preserve your identity as a separate body. like heal me as a body so that I can stay miserable, right? Or I can stay separate from God. Make me happy while being an attack thought, right? A thought of separation. They don't mix together. So what really needs heal is our own mind, so that we get clarity about what we really want. What are our real needs? Never confuse right and wrong mindedness. Responding to any form of error with anything except a desire to heal is an expression of this confusion, right? So any upset, anytime we have an upset, we have financial trouble that comes up with a missed payment, a bankruptcy or whatever, right? Um, uh, Often like what the ego goes like, okay, how do I fix this, right? So then you contact this person, you get angry at them because they messed up your transaction history or whatever. um, and you try to solve the issue that way, right? And so you're trying to fix things, you're trying to seek salvation through rearranging the deck chairs, and it doesn't work. And so rather, with any upset that occurs within your mind, you can even allow your ego character to do all those things, but step back a little bit and realize, wait a second, what's going on here is a disturbance. It's an experience of separation, of not having everything that I need, which is our unity with God, with love, with one another. And so if we can start to recognize any upset that comes within my life and within my mind as a call for healing, a call for love, a call for the return from fear to love, then um, that is going to bring us back into our right mind. And any other response, whether it's trying to fix things, whether it's trying to achieve things, get things, distract from pain, self-soothe, all of that is an expression of confusion, right? It's thinking that we're a body and that we can just fix our bodies to make ourselves happy. We're just kind of wrong. But as that we practice the miracle, we get closer and closer to realizing where the problem really is, which is in our mind. Okay, so the miracle is always a denial of this error, and an affirmation of the truth. Only right-mindedness can correct in a way that has any real effect. Pragmatically, what has no real effect has no real existence. Its effect, then, is emptiness. Being without substantial content, it lends itself to projection. So there's a hell of a lot of metaphysics here. But essentially, what it's saying is the miracle is a denial of the idea that the world has any effect on our mind. Like the world is as something it's just the mirror, right? We have mud on our face and we're trying to fix the mirror, right? So the miracle affirms, wait a second, no, fix the mud on my face. I have to go within. I have to look at myself, and not the mirror, to clean what I see in the mirror, which is the world, right? So only right-mindedness, only the correction of our own mind, um, rather than fixing the world so that I can be happy, I fix my mind so that I then see a happy world. Um, so when we see an unreal world, it's like seeing a blank mirror, right? What we think is, when the separation first took place, we then created a world, right? Because our mind, which is a creative, just like God's, always has to be creating something. And what it creates is really neutral, right? It seems like the world, is there's no real meaning. Everything, I've given everything I see the meaning that it has for me, right? That's one of the early lessons. Because yeah, anything can be good, anything can be bad, in the sense of the world, in the world of good and evil, right? But really, in that world of pain and pleasure, even pleasure is pain. Even pleasure is, anything that happens within a world where we're separate from God really is an attack thought. So no, even the most beautiful, wonderful things in the world, behind them all will always be a sadness, will always be a sense of separation. And so, but because it's perceived as neutral, we then project onto it all of our ego drama. Okay, number 5, the level adjustment power of the miracle, which restores to our consciousness the power of our mind as the dreamer, induces the right perception for healing. Until this has occurred, healing cannot be understood because you can't heal, you can't understand healing as Patrick. That makes no sense. What's this body like? Oh, he must be a special body because it must be a special body that is holy and highly revered by God, therefore must be able to to perform miracles or whatever, or to heal or to teach. And like it, no, it doesn't work like that. Um, it has to be understanding of ourselves as the one mind behind everything that is united with everyone. And from that place, healing makes sense because then we realize, well, I'm the one dreaming up all of it. Right? So you're not going to really feel that proud of your miracles when you realize that you're the one that dreamed up on purpose all the death and destruction around you. You just realize, whoa, something wrong. My mind is sick right now, dreaming up this person as a victim, and my other brother as the victimizer. My mind is unwell. I need healing, right? So all of the healing that we seem to give outwardly is really our own healing, because I'm the one dreaming up the chaos and the conflict and the separation that's happening within my mind. And so there's nothing wondrous and special about a miracle worker. It's no, I'm sick. I need healing, right? And so that's what we give because we're all one. I mean, me healing, seemingly healing somebody else or forgiving them and seeing the light in them, it's not a special gift to them. You know what I mean? Like that I do because I'm a good person. It's like, no, it's just a recognition that I'm the one that is projecting onto that. And so it's something sick within my own mind that is causing me suffering because I get an upset when I see somebody else suffering, right? And so it's a call for healing. It's a call for love. Okay. Forgiveness is an empty gesture and unless it entails correction, right? Without this, it is essentially judgmental rather than healing. And this correction goes beyond just correction of perspective in the human sense of that. It is, in fact, a call for healing. And they go in the later chapters of the book, they go much more in depth into that because what is illness? What is problems? What is injustice? But proof that sin is real, right? And that's why it's put there that sin is real, that victimhood is a real thing, right? And so healing is an integral part of that. So as long as we are seeing somebody as a victim, as suffering, as in need in any way, um, you can't really forgive. You can't forgive until you see them as completely whole, as completely healed, as completely innocent. Well, I guess I have an animal living in camp. So okay. Anyway. So yeah, so forgiveness. So this correction is not just the correction of Patrick's mind, where you can just kind of let bygones be bygones. It is a call to a deeper mind. If I'm seeing conflict, if I'm seeing sickness, and I'm not seeing the light, that my mind needs healing. And that's true forgiveness, because once that perspective is changed, we see them as they really are. They are healed, right? And then forgiveness is just an obvious conclusion, right? When you see them as healed and the victimizer as innocent, then forgiveness is just like a duh moment, right? And so this only makes sense from the mind of the dreamer. It doesn't make sense as an ego character within the dream. You can't forgive as Patrick. Patrick cannot forgive. It's just not possible. Okay. That's why forgiveness is healing, right? Because it's happening in the mind of the dreamer. Number 6, miracle-minded forgiveness is only correction, right? And correction of my mind. It has no element of judgment at all. The statement, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, in no way evaluates what they do. It is an appeal to God to heal their minds, which are one with one, right? There is no reference to the outcome of the error. That does not matter. So yeah. So we're not forgiving or praying for others so that their egos can change, right? Um, like I'm not going to forgive you or praying for you that you'll change and leave your sinful ways behind, right? It's rather what we're praying for in the sense is that my mind is healed, that I see them as always one with God, always loving, always one with me in a loving communion that's always there. You are one self, united with me in our Creator, right? At one with every aspect of creation. And you experience that light, and that light is who they really are. And this image was just a veil that you put on to hide the face of Christ in them, right? And so when you really experience that, you experience them as a light, then those images lose their meaning. They become kind of like a thin veil over the truth that was always there, right? Um, and so that's what he means, right? So it's not we're forgiving. The forgiving is not because they did something bad and they need to stop doing that. Rather, it's there's something sick within my mind that I'm seeing this person as a body that can do wrong, that can harm others, that can harm me or people I identify with, right? Um, that's what's sick and that's what needs healed. That's what happens in forgiveness. And so when we're praying for the healing of their mind, it's really our minds that are one with theirs. Okay, I'm just getting into this a little more here. So number 7, the injunction, be of one mind, is the statement for revelation readiness. Revelation meaning the recognition that we're one with God. So revelation can only happen, you can't experience revelation. You can't be a holy ego and experience yourself as one with God. When you have this experience, and we all will, we all have, because it's the truth of what we are, it can only come in an experience of oneness with everyone because it's a universal, it's an impersonal experience in the sense that it's not an individual thing. So a prerequisite to experiencing oneness with God is not experiencing yourself as different in any way from your brother. So you have to experience yourself as one with your brother, and then then we can recognize how we could be one with God. But you can't be like, I'm completely like, you can't experience yourself as separate from anybody, better than anybody, worse than anybody. In any way and experience yourself as one with God. It does not compute. So we need to be of one mind. We need to recognize that we're one with everyone in complete equality, which can only be experienced as spirit. Equality does not exist in the world of bodies. And that's when revelation can come in, right? Because God only has one son. And so if you don't recognize that, you can't experience it. My request, do this in remembrance of me, is the appeal for cooperation from miracle workers. The two statements are not in the same order of reality. Only the latter involves an awareness of time, since to remember is to recall the past in the present. Time is under my direction, but timelessness belongs to God. In time, we exist for and with each other. In timelessness, we coexist with God. Again, a lot of metaphysics that are kind of briefly summarized here that we don't need to get into. Like a lot of this will come up in much more detail later. But essentially, he's saying these on some level mean they're this do this the remember me, like practice forgiveness, practice healing, practice um, the healing work of being within the world, and then be of one mind. They kind of mean the same thing, but one within heaven on one level, right? Which is the truth, right? Is that we're one with everybody. But the truth is, like within this world, we don't experience this. And so the work of forgiveness happens within time so that we remember that we are actually one with everybody. It's not a cognitive just belief that you pick up out of a book. We need to actually experience that. And so what that requires is the cooperation of miracle workers, is the performance of healing, the practice of forgiveness, of all the upsets that come within our life and in our experience. And as we practice that, little by little, it sheds and undoes the separation, this feeling of being separate from others. And as that happens, as each one of us performs our forgiveness lessons, the separation from our brother becomes less and less, or becomes lighter, less dense, and we more and more experience ourselves as one with others. And that's what readies our mind to the remembrance of what was always there, is that we are one mind and that we are one with God. And so, but within this world, which we all believe we're here, it takes discrete kind of cooperation and forgiveness practices that seem like doings, but they're heal the mind to remember that we already are one. Okay, so the last one here. You can do much on behalf of your own healing and that of others if, in a situation calling for help, you think of it this way: I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. So this is kind of like a prayer in any situation that I find helpful. I use it pretty often um, um, because it can be used in any situation. Whether you're alone, you're with others, you're wherever you think you are, um, to remember the miracle mind, right? Our true state of mind. So I'm here only to be truly helpful. Now, how do we do that, right? How do we be truly helpful? And the truth is that we do that only through forgiveness and extending love. So that means seeing the truth behind all the actions and all the doings and the conflicts and the seeming images of the world. We look past that and we see the truth. We see the Christ in everyone. And we extend love, right? And so how that looks can be, honestly, it doesn't really matter how that looks, because everything is a call for forgiveness. And so sometimes in some situations, our ego is going to want to be an asshole, right? It's going to have reactions and ego things, and conflict and and whatnot, and that's okay too. That does not preclude these things, and it doesn't mean that you're not practicing the course, because it's not about what Patrick does. When we return to our right mind, we realize it's not Patrick's mind that I'm trying to fix here. It is the mind of the dreamer. And so then what you can realize is that Patrick is just one among many people within this world or situation that I'm in. And so I'm here to be truly helpful, both to Patrick and to all the other characters that are here. So that means forgiving each one of them for all of their reactions and and faults and wrongdoings and seeming errors that seem to happen, and you see the Christ in all of them. And so, um, and that sometimes will reflect that Patrick does some things that are seem to be practicing the course or not, but sometimes often he won't. Right? You know, maybe he's going to slaughter a bull that you need to eat. You know, it's kind of cruel in some sense. But if every situation is just a call for love. And so that love is not coming from Patrick. Can't, not possible. You can try to do that, and you can find these holy people online that seem to be all love and enlightenment. It's never true. It doesn't mean that love and light is not coming from, seem like it's not there, but it's not coming from the ego character, right? And so our ego characters are fickle. Time, you know, sometimes you're on the right path, and other times you're not. It's like um, there's no certainty, there's no eternity, there's no um, truth really in anything that bodies do. So all bodies are attack thoughts, and all bodies are calls for forgiveness. And so what I'm saying here essentially is if you can realize that the one that is here to be truly helpful is not Patrick. It is a presence, it's a loving presence that is behind Patrick, that's forgiving Patrick, that's forgiving all the other people within his life. Um, so it's an invitation to enter that. That is the mind of the Holy Spirit. Right? And so that's why he says here, right? I am here to represent him who sent me, right? Holy Spirit, love, remembrance, that we're one, that I'm not a body. And so whatever this body does, even if it's not a loving thing, I'm still here to be helpful to that body just as much as to the others, right? I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. And sometimes that will be, some people experience, I don't really experience this stuff. Like they'll get guidance about what to do within the world. I don't really think that that's really what he means here, that he's going to say, oh, send a letter to this person, make a phone call to this person, and then you'll be guided about what to do within the world. Maybe some people experience that stuff, but essentially what it really means, what are we really being guided to do through this whole course? And that's to forgive, right? So whatever your ego character does, whether it's what God wanted or not, really that's the ego God if they're given directions about what to do within the world. But what it is, our mission here is always, our function is always one, and that is to forgive, and that is to extend love, and that is to remember the truth of what we are. And so that's what we're being directed to do. And that's something that we can do no matter what our ego character is doing. So what I think this prayer is inviting us to, it'll meet you on tons of different levels. When you feel like you're a body, it might show up as do this, do that, or whatever. But as you practice, your consciousness begins to float out of your ego character a little more as you become more open to realizing. And it will fluctuate 100%. Okay, I'm content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me, right? Because truth is that we're always one. We're always in heaven. I will be healed as I let him teach me. But anyway, it's a very helpful prayer to invoke in any situation that helps us to remember the miracle moment. So that's mostly it for this section. It's a little bit shorter, a little bit of a hodgepodge, and it's a quick overview of some pretty deep metaphysics. But as always, I think the key is just remembering, listening to what speaks to you and what helps you to enter the mind peace and see the world through the eyes of love. All right, so I'll leave it there if anybody has any questions or anything. Now we'll move on to our meditation. All right. Okay, so this is going to be lesson 247 with Beyond the Matrix. But this one, again, this is in the later section of the course where you kind of have the two parts. So this is from the section called What is the World? So this can be really helpful. He's going to go over this within the section, but essentially what I think the course is inviting us to is, because we're talking about practicing, our function as the miracle worker. And what it requires is a new perception of the world and to heal our perception of what the world is. And so that's what this section hopefully will invite us into. With what is the world? The world is a false perception. It is born of error and has not left its source, which is our mind. Okay, will remain no longer than the thought that gave it birth is cherished, the thought of separation. Right? I won't go through all that because we're going to go through it in the section. But then again with 247, which is the prayer that kind of goes along with it. Just a reminder that forgiveness is our mission. Forgiveness is what we do with everything that we see within the world. Not just a blind denial that there is no world, it's all empty, it's just us. There's, but rather it's a call for love. It's a call for joining. It's a call for seeing the truth that is hidden right behind the love, right? That not that there's nothing out there, but it's more that the truth is that there's everything out there just behind the nothingness that we put up to block it, right? So it's a very different message. There's peace, there's joy, there's joining just behind there. And that's forgiveness that allows us to experience it. When you try to go non-dual without forgiveness, you just get that empty, blank slate kind of experience that some can pierce through that. But what the course emphasizes so deeply is that what pulls us into that blank emptiness of the non-dual, right, that our ego wants to project onto. What pulls us is the idea that we're separate from God, right? The idea of guilt, and so forgiveness, which is the removal of guilt, lifts those weights that keep us tied down in the world of emptiness. And so, without forgiveness, we can't see the real world, right? We can't see the joy, we can't see the love that is hidden right behind it because we don't want to see it. We want to see the grievances out there so that we don't feel guilty. That's the ego's plan for salvation. So forgiveness lifts that heavy weight that we've kept on ourselves of feeling like we deserve punishment of some kind. So we lift that, we see the innocence, and then all of a sudden there's no desire, there's no block that keeps us from wanting to see the truth. All right.
Welcome to this holy instant now. An instant to stop and remember. Remember who and what you truly are, beyond the matrix of fear, lack, and limitation. All that seems to limit you in this world is only an illusion that demands your continued belief and attention in order to have any power over you. Now is your opportunity to let go of whatever stands in the way of your complete awareness of your true and original self. Sit back with your spine upright. Get comfortable and take a deep, slow breath. And as you exhale, release both past and future. Release both memory and imagination. and become fully present in the now. And let's begin. The contemplation with which we begin today's practice is this: what is the world? The world is false perception. It is an illusion of reality, born from the false belief that we are separate from each other and from God. As long as we hold on to this belief in separation, the world appears real to us, its reality existing only in our minds. When the thought of separation has been changed to one of true forgiveness, the world will be seen in quite another light, and one which leads to truth and awakening. The world is a symbol of fear because it pictures a place where we seem to live out our lives in the absence of our Creator, and therefore in the absence of love. We can say that it was made as an attack on God and a mockery of true creation, which is eternal and unlimited forever. Yet here, where fear appears to rule in the absence of love, all things seem to die. Lack appears as reality, and limitations are taken to be a fact of life. From the belief in separation, perception arose to take the place of knowledge. Based on error and deception, the mechanisms of illusion, which include our physical senses, have been established in place of the innate knowledge of our divine connection and oneness. These mechanisms now operate to fulfill the world's purpose, which is to validate the ego's perception of separation from God. And everything these mechanisms report is but illusion, intentionally kept separate from the truth. Yet we are reminded that the mechanisms of perception can be redirected towards truth and love through the bridge of forgiveness. And what was made by the ego to prove that separation is reality can be repurposed and guided by the divine to lead us to the awakening of our true nature in oneness. To awaken from the world of the ego dream matrix is to transform our perception by complete forgiveness, and so save the world by seeing it through the eyes of oneness, restoring it from a realm of illusion and death to one of everlasting life and a celebration of the truth. Take a moment now to contemplate the contrast between the illusory world of the ego and God's true creation. Allow this contemplation to saturate your mind, to shape your perceptions, your thoughts, and your decisions, transforming the way you see and illuminating the way of awakening to And now, take a deep, slow breath. And as you let it go, let your mind and body relax. Allow all tension to dissipate as you let go of the past and the future, and allow yourself to come fully into presence now. Words and concepts will mean little to us now, for now we seek the direct experience of truth alone. We leave the thoughts of the dream matrix behind and will to enter the kingdom of peace within. And here we wait in quiet expectation for the direct experience of God and the revelation of our oneness with our source and our unity with all things. So take one more deep, slow, and full breath in. And as you let it go, open your mind to take in the idea with which we practice today. Without forgiveness, I will still be blind. Sin is the symbol of attack. If I behold it anywhere, I will suffer. While forgiveness is the only means whereby Christ's vision comes to me. Let me accept what the vision of oneness shows me as the simple truth, and I am healed completely. Let all my brothers, every living being, come to me, that I may look upon them and recognize that their loveliness reflects my own. Their sinlessness is mine, and I stand forgiven in the forgiveness which I share with them. And so would I look on everyone today. All beings are one with you, infinite creator. Your fatherhood created them and gave them all to me as part of you and part of my own true self as well. Today, I honor you, God, through each and every living being, and thus I hope this day to recognize the oneness of my true self. And what is blindness except the failure to recognize God in everything? Whenever we see something other than God in any one of our brothers and sisters, in any one of the countless living beings, we are blind in that same moment. It is the power of forgiveness that sets our vision free to behold all things through the eyes of oneness, the eyes of our true infinite self. And so I invite the power of forgiveness to set my vision free today, that I may honor you, O infinite creator, in all that I look upon, and in every living being I behold.
All right. So I'll just leave it at that for the meditations, but I will finish off just with prayer. So sin is the symbol of attack. Behold it anywhere, and I will suffer. For forgiveness is the only means whereby Christ's vision comes to me. Let me accept what his sight shows me as the simple truth, and I am healed completely. Brother, come and let me look on you. Your loveliness reflects my own. Your sinlessness is mine. You stand forgiven, and I stand with you. So would I look on everyone today. My brothers are your sons. Your fatherhood created them and gave them all to me as part of you and my own self as well. Today I honor you through them, and thus I hope this day to recognize myself. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Everything ties in together, right? There's healing, forgiveness, salvation, all of it. It is helpful to kind of go through all these different aspects of things, but they all come into the truth is very simple, right? But the world of the ego is very complex. So of course meets us where we are. It's very helpful, I find, for me to delve into these concepts um, in detail because it undoes a lot of um, the illusions, right? The complex illusions that are hiding the very simple truth, right? And so as we practice forgiveness with all the little details and all the minor annoyances and the major atrocities, um, little by little, it all becomes one and we're able to let it go. So that's all I have for tonight. If anybody has any questions or anything, feel free. Let me know. Otherwise, I'll end the recording here. All right. Till next week.